Hello everyone. We are today discussing about Sudan, a country in Africa that's been through so much and right now it is experiencing one of the most severe human crises in our time. I will walk through the story, where things stand now, why this crisis is happening, who stands to gain or lose, what is this means for millions of people. By the end of our video, you will have a clear understanding about the current Sudan issue. And let's begin the story. To understand Sudan's agony, we must travel back in time to the very day it was born. It was 1956. The British and Egyptians finally withdrew. Sudan stood tall as an independent nation. It was largest in Africa at that time. Sudani people dreamed of peace, unity and prosperity. But independence came with invisible cracks. North and south of Sudan were divided, not just by geography, but by religion, ethnicity, and colonial neglect. In the north side of Sudan, Arabic-speaking Muslims dominated in politics, and in South African ethnic groups, they are mostly Christian and animist. And these group of people were felt ignored, excluded, and unheard. It did not take long, the dream began to crumble. Since independence, Sudan has seen more coups than peaceful transition. Leaders came with promising democracy, but left behind blood and ashes. Civil war erupted once then twice, from 1955 to 2005. More than 2 million people died in conflict in south and north. In 1989, Omar al-Bashir, a general with iron fist, seized the power in coup. For 30 years, he ruled through fear, religion and repression. He crushed the dissent, controlled the press and built a security state. But behind his regime shadow, something more terrifying was born. In 2003, the rebellion ignited in Darfur region, which is in western Sudan. Non-Arabic ethnic groups accused for the government of discrimination and neglect. But the response was brutal. Khartoum unleashed a militia which is called Janjaweed. They are camel-riding gunmen infamous for their cruelty. Villages were burned, women assaulted, families were slaughtered, and the world called it genocide. Because from the ashes of Janjaweed, some more organized would soon rise. As years passed, the Janjaweed evolved into Rapid Support Force or RSF. A powerful parliamentary group not loyal to the nation but to its own commanders. Their leader, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemti, rose from the humble origins as a camel rider to one of the Sudan's most powerful men. Under Bashir, RSF became official and part of the state security structure. But in reality, they were a state with a state, rich, armed and feared. When Bashir fell in 2019, after a people revolution, the RSF didn't fade, they grew stronger. For a brief moment, the people of Sudan dared to dream again. A joint civilian-military government was formed. Democracy seemed within reach. But the general Abdul Fattah al-Burhan of Sudanese Armed Force and Hemti of RSF were uneasy allies. Both men wanted power and both wanted to control Sudan's wealth, its gold, land and future. But it was not too long. The alliance were collapsed and on April 15, 2023, Sudan's nightmare returned. The war began in Khartoum, the capital. Tanks were rolled down the streets, fighter jets roared overhead, and civilians fled in panic. Within days, neighborhoods turned to battlefields. Hospitals were bombed, families trapped, food and water vanished. When the conflict spread to Darfur, Kordofan, and beyond, all tribal wounds reopened and communal massacres were returned. And finally, the war became not just for territory, but for soul of Sudan. Sudan's tragedy is not isolated. Behind every bullet, there is a shadow of global interest. The United Arab Emirates and Russia's Wagner Group have been accused of backing of RSF for gold and influence. Egypt supports the Sudanese army, fearing instability near its border. Meanwhile, the West debates, the UN condemns, and millions of Sudanese starve. Because of the war like this, power speaks louder than humanity. Over 10 million people were displaced. Thousands dead, countless children separated from their parents. Hospitals operate without medicine. Women walk miles for a drop of clean water. And cities that once thrived like El Janina now lie in ruins. For people of Sudan, it is not just a war, it's a collapse of hope itself. Here is also a backstory for the complete war. You may have doubt about why these kind of wars happening in the Sudan land, but the real story is different. Here is the cruel truth. This conflict is not about military control, but it's about identity, land and old grievances buried deep beneath the sand. Each side carries not just weapon, but generations of anger, memories, and who took the posture. those tribal held power, and who was left voiceless under the shadow of history. Every war has its own economy, and in Sudan, gold glitters behind the gunfire. Darfur and Kordofan, names the world rarely remembers, are rich in minerals and trade routes. For RSF, controlling these lands means controlling wealth. Gold mines that for war machines. For SAF, losing them mean for losing Sudan's economic heartbeat. When the RSF captured El Fasher, the gates to Darfur riches opened wide. The RSF did not just gain land. They gained power, leverages and money, and they had changed everything. Because in Sudan, control of gold means control of the future. In Sudan, politics and ethnicity are tangled like desert vines. You cannot separate them. Every bullet fired carries centuries of resentment. The question now is, will Sudan ever break free from the ghost of its tribal past? Or will identity always be spark that turns peace into ashes? Now we can discuss about how the stakeholders were gains from this war. First of all, we have to think about RSF, the Rapid Support Force. If they win in the war, they gain territorial control, political leverage and access to resources like gold, mining and regional borders. And also, if they seize key cities like El Fasher, they can strengthen their hand in any negotiation or future government. And also, they may position themselves as a de facto power in the Western Sudan, mostly in Darfur region, which gives bargaining power. The next stakeholder is SAF or Sudani Armed Forces, or we can say as its government side. If they dominate in the war, they can maintain legitimacy by portraying itself as a resisting a breakaway force of rebels. So, those on the army side benefit from the international support or sympathy. And also, they can control central state of apparatus and major cities remains as a strategic assets. And also, future political deals may favor them if they can negotiate with this strength. The other stakeholder in the war is regional and foreign actors. External states or companies might gain access to Sudan resources or influenced by supporting the one side. The breakdown state in the control creates opportunities for informal extraction of resources like gold and diamonds. These are one side of the story, but in other side, beyond the politics, beyond the power struggles, beyond the military uniform and speeches, there are people, millions of them, caught in a storm they never created. According to international agencies, more than 11 million people, they are nearly half of the country's population have been displaced. 11 million stories of loss, of fear, of survival. In places like El Fasher and Kadugli, famine is no longer a warning, it's a reality. The soil is dry, the wells are empty, and hunger has become a weapon of war. Sudan's health system is collapsing. Hospitals that once saved lives now stand in ruins. Doctors are forced to choose who to treat and who to leave behind. The war is not just being fought with the bullets, it's being fought with the fear, mass killing, sexual violations, ethnic cleansing, and tearing of the nation's soul. Every corner of the country whispers stories of horror. Stories of the world is too tired to listen to. Infrastructure has fallen apart. Food and medicine can't reach the people who need them most. Aid workers, the lifeline, are trapped with bureaucracy and bullets. And perhaps the cruelest tragedy of all, the children. Save the Children calls it the largest child displacement crisis in the world. Imagine growing up not with the bedtime stories, but with the sounds of airstrike. Imagine learning to run before learn to read. Diseases are spreading. Cholera, malnutrition, infections, thriving in the wreckage of system that no longer works. Every drop of the water could save of life. By analyzing the complete thing, some of my observations are here. First one, this is not just another war. It has potential to reshape Sudan's future, fragmenting the country, creating zones of council, weakening the state, so the power diffuses into militias and warlords. And my second take is, these stakes are enormous for Sudani people, for the region, for the international humanitarian norms. And third one is, it's also a wake up for viewers. Conflict like this, which may seem remote, have global implications like refugee crisis, regional instability and humanitarian cost. My hope for this vlog is that you, the viewer, live with more knowledge, live with more empathy. As a final note, Sudan's story is still being written. The next chapters will matter. And by keeping the story alive through content, discussion and memory, we help ensure that those suffering from the forgotten. Thank you for watching.